Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to our What's All the ERPs Buzz monthly chat. So excited that you're here, whether it's on Zoom or LinkedIn Live. So welcome, everyone. We're excited to chat with you today. I just want to go over a few housekeeping items before we get started. My name is Amy Keenan. I'm the host and founder of the ISV Society. Started these monthly chat series a couple months ago. So this is number 3 that we're doing today. So very excited. And we're talking all about the finance exec's function and streamlining the AR process with HighRadius. As you know, this is going to be recorded. So we will be sharing the recording with everyone afterwards as well. And if you do have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we will get to them at the end. We should have a few minutes of time. As you know, these are about 20 minutes or less. So we try to make them quick and fun and easy and digestible. So that way you can get on with your day and it's a nice little break in the day as well. I'm still admitting some people, so I want to give it a couple more seconds here. Welcome, everyone. I know we have some new people, so just wanted to let you know this is being recorded. So we will be sharing this recording afterwards. Okay, so let's get started. I want to introduce our speaker today, Morris, who is the VP of Finance at HighRadius. As you can see, he is in Canada. He's earned his MBA. He has 4 kids. So do I, Morris. We have something in common.
There you go.
Worked 10 years at Toshiba, and before becoming the VP of Finance at HighRadius, he was the Chief of Staff. So welcome so much for joining me today for our chat series. Excited to be here and chatting with you.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
All right, I'm just going to stop sharing the screen so we can just focus on us. I can see everyone, so it makes it a little more interactive that way. So let's get started. I'll be asking Morris some questions. He'll be diving into the nitty gritty of what we're talking about today, which is what's holding you back from your finance function in 2022, the growth outlook for 2022, AR automation and how to streamline, and then benchmarks focus areas you can look into. So with that, Morris, let's start with question number 1. What are some things holding the finance exec teams back this year? It being June already, halfway through the year, I'm sure you've seen a lot. So love to hear your feedback on that.
Yeah, it's a good question. So first, thanks for having me again, Amy. Humbled and honored to convey answer some of these questions that are going to be coming in. So I think what's holding finance execs teams back, if I had to just take a step back, maybe is there's tons of data, right? And whether we're all drowning in data. I mean, I'm sure everyone sees it. I see it. But what do you do with that data? I kind of think we're starving for information, though, right? And just for a little analogy, there's more data in the past 5 years than the history of time, right? All in combination. But what do we do with that information is one thing that's holding us back. How do we make that meaningful and value add? I think the second thing is, I like to think about resources. We're all in this great, whatever you want to call it, musical chairs kind of economy for your top talent or your talent in general. So when you retain, you recruit, and there's a resource crunch, which in effect is in holding finance execs back from moving forward. I think the last one really is the biggest one, maybe that I'm thinking about, is old systems, disconnected systems, primitive systems, right? I mean, a lot of us still use what we used 20 years ago, which is Excel, right? Which is nothing wrong with it per se, but it's not a 2022 system when you think about automation, right? It's not intuitive, smart AI-based system. So getting comfortable with what you've known is, and taking that little leap of faith into somewhat of the unknown, where you could use a system of record to more automate your information and make all the drowning of data meaningful, is, in my opinion, I think what some of the elements that are maybe holding some finance executives back.
Yes, definitely. I think spreadsheets are huge, could be a huge bottleneck for a lot of companies in a variety of areas, right? I mean, those were the ERP at one point where they were just managing using spreadsheet after spreadsheet for everything. So definitely, there is definitely an easier way than using spreadsheets for everything. That's for sure. Okay, so how has the role of the finance exec, like a CFO or controller, changed over the years? What have you seen in this space?
Yeah, what I've seen in my experience is from the stereotypical bean counter, right? I mean, I've been called the bean counter too many times, but I really rely on others to count the beans per se, right? So your position of finance exec, like CFO or controller, is you're more of a visionary, more strategic. I like to say the CFO stands for combining finance and operations, is what the new CFO really acronym stands for, because you're not just on your finance perch anymore. Your vision is broader. You have a much more strategic role across your company. In the end of the day, the finance is a key element for any company, right? So if you want to invest in technology, you have to understand the budgeting issues, ROI issues, and whatnot, any compliance regulations that creep up. So you have a much more broader than historically, maybe even 20 to 30 years ago, especially than what it is today. You have that drive. Again, I'll revert to automation in part because HighRadius, we're an automation company. So obviously I believe in that. But if you persist in the manual processes versus a finance exec of today is a lot about digital transformation. The technology element of your job is also creeping in your daily functions.
Yes, definitely. And you touched upon this a little bit, but what are some of the factors that have contributed to this change and the evolution and the role of the CFO or the controller?
Yeah, and this is exactly it. It's part of it's from the rapid growth that we have, global economy, the shrinking economy in a sense. There's a lot more scrutiny applied to the finance or the financial reporting. A lot of different regulations that are coming about. There was a new cyber regulation that was released just a few weeks ago, right? Different ESG reporting functions that are being required as well. So the job has definitely evolved internally from not just finance and now operations as well, strategy, but also I think externally with the financial reporting elements to it. I think as well, what has kind of driven some of this change is the fact is we live in a technology world today. I mean, very simple. We 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it was very different technology. Amazon, for example, 2020 and 2000 was really getting it started per se. And now look where we are. The whole e-commerce wave getting started. The whole AI concept was a little bit futuristic to even 20 years ago. Now it's more of it's table stakes in a sense for a lot of automation companies. So I think that's some of the driver factors for it, and you're not going to slow it down. I mean, in the day, technology begets technology. So the evolution is going to speed up, frankly, rather than slowing down. So I think the part of the job as a CFO or controller or executive in the finance world is you got to stay up and keep up with the technology, or else you'll be frankly left behind.
And I have to say, over the years being in this space, I've definitely seen a lot of companies that have done a lot of archaic things, or still in their using archaic things and doing it archaic ways. And it's very hard to get them to switch that mindset. Hey, you have to evolve and change and embrace technology and automation and basically make your job easier.
Absolutely. Change is scary.
Yes.
But folks around you are changing. So it's a very competitive world. And part of the digital transformation is shrinking that competitive world. So I think it's prudent to stay up and keep up with those around you.
And speaking of digital transformation, so we hear that term thrown around a lot. What do you think are crucial areas of investment in the finance leader's digital transformation journey, and what does that look like?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a lot of people throw that word exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we're doing digital transformation. What does that really mean? I think we mentioned our kids. I use that sometimes. I was like, well, guys, you have the iPhone 13, whatever, digital transformation, how we think about the world we live in. So it's interesting. It's thrown around in a lot of conversations or dinner tables as well. I think we could break down to maybe 3 elements. You have a process that will change your trends, that you'll have to adjust or accommodate for. There's the people, which is crucial for any company to have the right people, the A players. And then you have the technology that supports the process and the people, right? Enabling the people to maximize the process. So I think the first one, the process, I know there was a recent study, if I remember correctly, I think it was CFO Dive. It was about 40% or so of financial executives. They're planning on automating the AR function in this fiscal year, right? Because they're seeing the benefit of automation. You're generally collecting, I think in your AR last time was about 67% when I looked at it last, faster than a manual process. So there's obviously cash that you're leaving on the table by not automating. So it's net negative not to. So I think the process is, if you have those metrics, they are metrics in, let's say, real time, then those metrics also become actionable. So we talked about, again, the data, there's so much information, but making that information valuable in real time and actionable is key as a process flow. To do that, you need technology, right? What are the archaic, as you mentioned, Amy, won't get you there, right? Or you're gonna need a small army of people to do what technology could do in a few minutes or hours. So you need the technology to enable the process. Inevitably, again, the technology is moving faster than some of us maybe are comfortable with to address the change fear factor, but inevitably technology will move forward and streamlining and automating a lot of the process. And then that brings to the people. In terms of the people, what this does is you have a more robust value add, and I think, frankly, happier workforce, because a lot of people don't want to do mundane tasks that can be automated. They want to add more value, more strategic value. So, for example, if you had a technology to enable the process to be more streamlined, then the people could do more value add, meaningful day-to-day involvement, supporting the finance executives, the CFO, controllers, or what have you. And that's the trend that I'm seeing from peers, that those 3, process, people, technology, are kind of intermingled and enabling the best of the best, the breed for companies to succeed.
Exactly. And I know you mentioned that fear factor. I feel like some employees may think, hey, you're starting to automate all these processes, so what am I supposed to do now? And in retrospect, you're just making their job easier. There's not going to be a place for that person to do the tasks. They're just going to do it in an easier way and a more automated way, which makes more sense. It saves them time, it saves everybody money and aggravation. And yes, like you mentioned, they can focus on other things too.
Absolutely. And I think a key concept I know we have here is upskilling your workforce. So instead of someone focusing on how do I improve this mundane or repetitive task, it's how do I really add the value and maximize technology, and that enables your workforce to upskill their capabilities as well within finance, or learn a new finance if they're in the finance department function, more skills, more capabilities, instead of focusing on having an Excel file. And I'm picking on Excel just because we're in the finance world. That's what I think our general go-to has been. And then you have a list of customers who, let's say, are late payers, then you sort it, whatever. It's not intuitive, right? It's very manual, calling the customer, sending an email, whatever else. It's not intuitive, where you factor in risks, where you're automating who is past due the most, what's the risk tolerance, how the value of this customer, is there any churn capabilities, all that information in a nice dashboard for you, so you can the person can make an informed decision.
Yes, and that kind of leads into my next question. Let's talk more specifically about the AR process and what are the biggest risks achieving AR goals for finance execs.
Yeah, so part of it, when you have a DSO is not where you want it to be, you're literally leaving money out there, right? It should be collectible, and for whatever reason it's not. And I think part of the reason is not that companies don't want to pay you per se, it's not one of their priorities. And sometimes there's a strategy, wait till someone calls me to collect, then I'll pay you. But if you get ahead of the game and you have a system with all the sources laid out for you from the AR team, and you break down any siloed workflows from any other department where you understand, okay, this company is not paying us for X, Y, or Z reason. You break that down. We have all the information readily available. Then you could take that information real time and convert it into actionable insights, right? Which I think the net result will be cash flow position, a positive cash flow position for the company. So you have all this information live, the various inputs, because you don't have a siloed department or workflows. It's all streamlined. You have the information, you have your notes, all systematized, automated, your points of contacts, whatnot, your history of payments, all there ready to go in a really self-consumable automation system. Your collections guarantee are going to increase, and the AR team is going to focus on what matters most rather than chasing, the pipe dream payments that inevitably you might have to write off as bad debt, whatnot. So having that technology minimizes that collection risk. It will improve your DSO in the end of the day.
Yes, and I feel like it gives them better insights, right, into knowing who's overdue and who's coming due, and just having better customer service that way. And then it gets, and for the CFO, just gives them better insights, and then gives them the numbers and real true data that they can use to leverage and figure out what next steps would be.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so now that we talked a little bit about the risks, and what are the areas of automation in regards to accounts receivable that organizations should invest in, and how does that relate to what HighRadius does?
Yeah, of course. So I'm not a sales person per se, so I beg you all for forgiveness for that. But so at HighRadius, you start from the very beginning. Credit automation, it's the order to cash process. It's the full process, right? So credit automation, if you could onboard your customers faster and seamlessly, frictionless, that's a net positive for you and for your customer, right? It's a good onboarding, let's call it, experience for both sides, and that really starts off a good relationship with your customer. So automate the credit process. I think step 2 would be, at some point you're going to invoice. So if you have a automation like HighRadius offers, EIPP e-invoicing solution, then as well, the objective is to streamline and make the whole relationship frictionless, simple, easy. You're the customer, we're the supplier. We don't really see it that way. We see it as a more relationship. We're in this together, right? So make it simple and easy for your customers. And again, that's something that for HighRadius that we offer, EIPP solutions, as we call it, e-invoicing presentment. I think after that, once you have the invoices, and if you have a portal, especially for invoices the customer, and you both could check to see what's coming up to, that again, that transparency is also very helpful for both sides. Once the invoice is paid, you have a cash application. If you could imagine, if you just have your invoices and your cash application automated, where it's hands-free, it automatically is applying the position. I mean, that's a dream for a lot of people, and that's something that we would offer as well. And then if not, you have the collections. So we have the collection suite, which is the full automation, minimizing collections, prioritizing using various autonomous, what we call autonomous accounting, AI capabilities that will streamline your collections efforts. So in all this, to say, we have something called integrated receivables, autonomous accounting, that this is the technology of 2025 or 2030, but we're bringing it in available today for finance executives who are ready to make that change.
Awesome. Thank you. So this is just a little bit about HighRadius here. So feel free to follow them on LinkedIn, visit them on LinkedIn. We'll again share the recording and information in case you'd like to reach out to them and ask them any questions. If you do have any questions right now, you can certainly put them in the chat and we can answer them for you live, which will be good because you get Morris's undivided attention. If you don't have any questions, again, feel free to reach out to us and let us know. As I mentioned, we try to make these 20 minutes or less, and we are right at that 20-minute mark. And just so you know, we do have 2 more chats coming up, just to mark your calendars. The good thing is, once you sign up for these, you're in it for the long haul, so you don't have to sign up again, which is really nice. And you'll see that what we have coming up for July and August. But again, thank you so much, Morris, for joining me today and chatting with me. I'm excited to share this recording with everybody. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat now. Otherwise, we will let you get on with your day. Everybody's quiet today. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And thank you, Morris, for joining me today. I really do appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you much. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of the day.
Yes, thanks, everyone.